seeing Oprah as one of the African American preachers, at that moment, I think that was different. And seeing Joyce, as seeing Oprah as African American female news person, that was different because you didn't see a lot of that at that particular time. And then seeing uh, uh, Joyce Meyers, that was different to see her as a female preacher in the 90s, when there was a lot of males out there. So that was different, but I don't think the impact was, I don't think it was a lot of impact. I was like, well, was there a lot of impact when it came to them impacting me? I don't, again, I think it was different for Oprah and Joyce and Billy Graham, because again, he was talking about God, and so was Joyce. But I really didn't hear a lot that would like really impact me. Um, so I was like, well, did I impact them? And I think that that's what it was. I think I impact them once I came in contact with them. There was a power released in their lives once I came in contact with them, and because I couldn't see anything else because I'm not rich and famous like them, and we're talking about the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Here we're in, where are we in 2021? I'm not rich and famous like them as I look at their lives now. Billy Graham passed away, but what he became one of the most famous male preachers that there is. And so I asked myself, like, why, I didn't become like the rich and famous like them, so I don't really have that in common with them because I asked myself, well, what did I have in common with them? If it wasn't the power released in their lives that I did, then what was it? What was it? Because again, I only seen them like a 1 2 2 2 minute thing, and it wasn't really. I think in some of the places I might have, you could look at the places that where I was at the time, I can see some impactful thing. But I'm asking, I was saying, like, what did Oprah and Joyce and with the exception of Billy Graham and me throwing the basketball, what impact did that have on my life? I mean, what impact did that have on my life at that moment? At that moment, and I really don't see that. I really don't see. I really, I really don't see that. The impact again at that moment, not at that moment. Even now, and I was like, well, the basketball. I really didn't play a lot of basketball. I really didn't do that. As far as talk show, Oprah, news. I do like the news. Talk a little news stuff. But I'm not a news person. I'm not rich and famous like them. I'm not a preacher like Joyce. I'm not a preacher. Like Billy Graham. Billy Graham. I'm not either because I don't even think it's that. I don't think that I don't think that I have that in common with them, like that. So I was like, well, what else was it then? The only thing I can think of is that they were that power was released when I once I made contact with them. powers was released at that moment from May to them, and they became the most famous people in the future. All of them. And the other thing was that, hey, Kobe Bryant played basketball. Hey, I like basketball. I do like basketball. At this point, later in life, I became interested in basketball. He wasn't my favorite basketball player, but I did become I did start liking basketball and watching other teams and stuff like that. So basketball did play a role later on. So I think that was sort of the connection there, because basketball had became one of the things. I didn't play a lot of it, but I like to watch a lot of other people play it, and so I think it was impactful later. So I got to see the fruits of my power touching their lives. And then the fruit of it was that I got to enjoy the basketball playing, and Kobe. Again, Kobe wasn't one of my favorites, but I still like to watch basketball games, because I had some favorite teams and stuff like that. So other favorite teams and stuff like that. So I think basketball did play a role in the future for me as well. So I think that was another thing that was in common. As far as the news, Oprah Winfrey, I do think that I do like to talk the news. I like to talk about latest issues and stuff like that. So I think that impact, I think that did impact in the future. Oprah Winfrey, I got to watch her. I got to watch her and learn some stuff from her later on in life. Enjoy her programs. If there was a power released in her life from me, then there was. I began to. I know that that I had enjoyed the programs, that she did. That she did doing her run on TV, because and I think she ended her talk show in 2021, and I mean 2011 she ended her TV program and stuff like that. I mean her TV talk show, she ended that in 2011. So I got to enjoy a lot of her TV programs. So I think even if I had um, released power in her life, I get to enjoy the programs that she did. So I think that was another thing that was in common, because again, if she had talked the news when I first saw her, that was something that I did like to do later on in life as well. And so that I think that is something we have in common. Joyce Myers, uh, I think I don't know if I preach, um, but I think that seeing her was again, she was a female preacher, you know that has the that was unusual. um but I think that seeing her up on stage it was different. I mean, as I look back at it now, it was different back then, because most males did that, and preach. But I think that um um again, I don't know what I learned. Again, there was only 1 to 2 minutes that I seen her on the TV. So because I walked in the room and I looked and listened a little bit, and then I walked out. So it wasn't really like an impact. I think the impact was that power was released in their life that I did, and then and I walked out. But I think I got to enjoy if I released power into her life. Later on, I got to enjoy her TV programs, the Joyce Meyers, Life in the Word, and Enjoying Everyday Life. She did both programs, Enjoying Everyday Life, and she did Life in the Word, her TV conferences, and then she did then she still does do Enjoying Everyday Life. So I got to enjoy all their work. Kobe Bryant, Oprah Winfrey, Billy Graham to enjoy his programs. I got to enjoy his programs because even though I seen him on TV, later on I just sit there and watched his TV programs. So like that. If power was released in his life at of the moment that I first saw him and stuff like that, well, I got to enjoy his TV programs later on in life, and so all of them became. I came in contact with them later on in life. Kobe Bryant. If Kobe Bryant was born in 1978, yes, I came in contact with his ass later on in life. Like that. And Oprah Winfrey later on in life. Uh, you know, Joyce Meyers, same thing. Watching those TV programs, Oprah shows, and seeing Kobe Bryant play basketballs, playing my teams, and stuff. So I got to see their work, and Billy Graham the same thing. I got to see, his work, later on and stuff like that. It was like the first time I seen them, and I little did I know that I was going to see them later on in life. And when I seen them later on in life, they became more famous, and I got to see their work on TV, just like I seen them on TV. I seen them on TV, you know, and I got to see their work, what they did as far as their work and stuff like that. And that's amazing. I mean, when I think about all the first time that I came in contact with them, so to speak, and then years later, I become in contact with them later on in life as well, and it was something to see, to know, and it's like. I don't know. Am I a messiah? Am I? I think the basketball thing kind of told me that once the power, once I had that basketball, I think the Kobe Bryant thing kind of told me that power was released. And here's how. And here's how. When I had the basketball in my hand, um, once I was past half court, which is amazing to even know and see that I was past half court when I did that. I threw the ball up. I was past half court and I just threw the ball up and it went in. And I thought that was amazing that it did that. And little did I know that a star was born who played basketball years later. And that person was Kobe Bryant. I thought that was amazing to know that. And I was think, did I thought once I threw the basketball uh, and at past half court, which is amazing, and it went in. And then a star was born that same year. If not, probably a couple of days later or that day, I don't know. But it was the same year. And that star was Kobe Bryant. And he became one of the most famous African American males in the future who played basketball, by the way. And see, that made me think of the power that was released when I once I threw the ball up. There was power released in that, and I think that once went to the TV and turned that TV on and seen Oprah Winfrey on the TV at that moment, power was released from me to her, and she became one of the most famous African American females in the future, just like Kobe Bryant. And Joyce Meyers, same thing. She became, once I walked in the room and seen her on that TV, and I went to listen for like 1 or 2 minutes, and I walked out the room. I think power was released at that moment, and she became one of the most famous uh, female preachers in the future. And what they and Billy Graham the same way. Once I turned on the once I was flicking through that channel and ran into him, little did I know that he would become more famous than he is, and that like that, and that all Kobe, Oprah, and Joyce Myers and Billy Graham, when I seen them for the first time, that I was going to see them years later, rich and famous, like that. And I think that I think I had an impact. Um, Power was released in their lives from me, and that they became the people that they became, and I get to enjoy the fruits of their labor, like that. Once the power was released in their lives from me, and then they became rich and famous, then I began to enjoy the fruits of their work. Kobe Bryant basketball, him playing my favorite team, and then you know, and then um, Oprah, her TV shows. I enjoyed some of them, and stuff like that. Joyce Meyer, same thing. I enjoy watching her, man. And Billy Graham. I get to enjoy the fruits of their labor, and like that. And it's just so amazing to know that that's what exactly what happened. And that I was like, man, it's amazing how you run into them when you early on, and then because I ran and Joyce, Oprah, and Billy Graham, I only seen them about for 1 or 2 minutes on TV the first time. And then I get to enjoy all their fruits and labors through their TV shows on TV years later. Once I made that contact with them early on, once the power was released in their lives, I get to see them later on. And what's amazing was that I seen them for just a 1 to 2 minutes the first time I seen them, and they was not rich and famous or nothing. And I got to see them years later. Kobe Bryant, he was just born, but I got to see them years later, rich and famous, and enjoy their work that they did. It's amazing. It really is, and it's amazing. It's amazing how that plan worked out that way. It's amazing how that did that like that. And I had no idea that they would, if I impacted them, they sure enough impacted me in return, based on their TV programs and stuff like that. They sure did. Later on in life, they sure enough impacted me later on in life. If I did some impacting, or power released in their lives, you know, um, um, you know, but I get to enjoy their fruits of their labor because they of their TV programs that came on later, and that I get to enjoy those things, those programs that they did. Man, it's amazing. It really is, and and I asked myself, what made me think that I had the power to release in their lives. I think the Kobe Bryant one kind of showed me that. Because I think with the basketball thing, if I had that in my hand, how did I know that Kobe Bryant was going to be born that same year? Once I threw that basketball up at the court, past half court, I'm past half court, and it goes in, which was amazing. And little did I know a star was born that same year. That same year. It was amazing. And then God showed me Kobe Bryant in a dream that I had. Um, when after Kobe Bryant became famous, he showed me Kobe Bryant, and I think that was the way that was, to show me, who that star was that was born in 1978, Kobe Bryant. Because when Kobe Bryant died, what year was Kobe Bryant born? Because I thought about the basketball thing, and when I went to see what year he was born, 1978, and that was the same year. I knew where I was at, and that was the same year that I threw the basketball up. And it's amazing that if I throw a basketball up and past half court and it goes in, and then a star is born that same year, and then I have a dream about him later. It was amazing. And to see all of that. And then the same thing happened with Oprah, seeing her on that TV and turning that TV on, and just she comes on there, and then, and for the first time I see her, and she's not even rich and famous, and then years later she become rich and famous. Man, it's amazing how that happened. And then, and I thought about the impact. Did I release any power in her life? And she became rich and famous, just like Kobe Bryant, when I threw the basketball up at the court, and he was born that same year. I threw the basketball up at their court. Oprah in 1982, 83, when I seen her on that TV, little did I know that, I think, power was released in her life, and little did I know that I was, going to, see one of the most famous African American female, if not the famous, African American female in the future, Oprah Winfrey. Joyce Meyers, same thing. Little did I know that watching her on that TV for 1 or 2 minutes, when I walked in the room, I think power was released in her life from me. And she, uh, will become one of the most famous female preachers. And I began, and I enjoy her TV programs, and I say all this power and all this other stuff, because I couldn't see anything else that maybe, I think Kobe Bryant was the one way that told me that it was like power was released. and their lives, and I enjoyed the fruits of their labor by seeing their TV programs, and stuff like that, and enjoy and then learning and stuff like that. It's amazing how all of that came together like that because I couldn't see. I imagine that Oprah Winfrey and Joyce Meyers, and our backgrounds is the same in some ways and stuff like that. Again, it's amazing how that happened. It's amazing. I got other stories to tell, but I'm going to wrap this up. But I'm going to talk about other things as well because I have some other stories to tell too because it's amazing, and I think that in some ways I do have that power because I think I do because I think that I have ESP, extrasensory perception, and I think that I can see things before it happens and stuff like that, and so I think with Oprah Winfrey and Kobe Bryant, if I look back at it now, that's exactly what it was. When the basketball was released, he was going to become a basketball player. When when Oprah Winfrey, seeing her doing the news and stuff, and she's on TV, sitting down doing TV, she probably was going to be doing something in television, and that's exactly what she did. Joyce Meyers the same way. She was doing the preacher and all that stuff, and that moment she still became the preacher that she is, most famous, one of the most famous female preachers. Billy Graham, sitting there watching him, he became the most famous preacher. At all once I made contact with them and saw what they were doing, at that moment it was going to be like that when the way I was going to see them in the future. But I think that my power was released in their lives. I really do. I think that, and again, I do have the sensory perception, but I also know that I think the Kobe Bryant one was kind of told me that power was released. I couldn't think of anything else, but I do think that power was released in all four of their lives. um, I released power into their lives, and they became the people who they become. They became all famous, and I get to enjoy their work, their famousness, and all of that. It's amazing how that worked out like that. And I was like, because when I look at their life, when I look at them, I'm not famous. All of them became famous, rich and famous. I'm not rich, and I'm not even famous. So it wasn't that. So, but I think it was the power that was released from me into their lives, and they became the most famous people that we know of today, and stuff like that. It's amazing how that worked out. Even if I, you know, release power in their lives, I get to enjoy the fruits of their labor, based on the TV programs and stuff like that. Because I again, I saw all four on TV, all four on TV. Kobe, Oprah, Joyce Myers, and Billy Graham, all on TV. They all were on TV. They still had their own TV shows and everything, and stuff like that. They all was on TV when I first, you know, seen them or whatever. They all was on TV. They all became famous, rich and famous, all of them, all of them. And I get to enjoy, if power was released from me to them, and to have great lives. I get to enjoy the fruits of their labor through their TV programs, and that's I do feel some joy in that because I learned from their programming and stuff. So that kind of works out. But it's amazing how that worked out. How from the first time that I seen it until the second time I seen it, it's amazing how that worked out. You know, it's amazing how that worked out like that. Uh, and I don't want to be boasting about myself, but hey, I do believe that the power was released in their lives, and and I get to enjoy the fruits of their labor. If I release power in their lives, once I came in contact with them, years later, I get to enjoy the fruits of their labor, their TV programs and all. It's amazing. Yeah, I enjoy it. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, but I got other stuff I want to talk about because it's kind of similar to how